And hello, everyone. Hello, world. Welcome to another Thursday. It's 6 o'clock Eastern Time. And my name is Sasha Reese, and this is another episode of the show named Everything You Wanted to Know About Dogs You Just Didn't Have Whom to Ask. And I'm very excited today because, as you see from our little ad, that I won't be talking to you alone today. And I'm very much excited to introduce our guest, Tony Nila. I guess that's a Neil. And Tony, can you request joining my live? Okay, maybe I can do it like this. Okay, I can't. Can you just, oh, there you go. He's coming. Accept. We are waiting our friend to join. Try again. Accept. Unable to join. Can I just ask you to go out, come in again, and then we'll try to, I'll try to get you again, because it looks like because of no matter what reason, we are unable to connect.
Leave the live and come back.
Leave the live and then come back, and then go live with Sasha, or just type plus as you requested. Can you just type something in a comment like hi, and then I can call you to join the class? Yeah, Canine cognitive is not able to. So you can just type a comment, hello, hi, or whatever. So until we do not get to connect with Tony, we're gonna try one more time. I'm gonna a little why this communication, or actually a cognitive behavior, is pretty much interests me, and why I got so much interesting in Tony's work is because there you go.
Hi, finally.
Welcome.
How's it going, Sasha? How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you, and thank you so much for your time.
Excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me, and thanks to your followers for tuning in.
Yeah, I'm very excited to this too. And then let's start this show from the beginning, as we both met on my last live when I was a guest on a live with our mutual friend Vlad.
Yeah.
So tell me, please, how you two know each other, and what brought you together, and then let's unfold the story from there. Let's start the story from there, because that's the interesting part.
Okay. Okay. So Vladdy and I, it's we've known each other for a long time, actually. Because Vladdy met me when I was a young kid, actually. Starting to be a dog trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So Vladdy, as you know, is a world-renowned trainer, and he started off in Michigan, is where he originally lived, right? And I always knew of Vladdy. I just didn't have any of his DVDs back then or anything, but I knew who he was. And at that time, I was basically, I think, in my early 20s, just breaking into dog training and just trying to get all the knowledge I could get just in dog training in general. And there was an event, a dog event that was in Sedona, Arizona, which is where I live. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I don't know if they invited Vladdy or somehow how he got connected there, but because he's not from Arizona, he's in Michigan, but he was in Sedona, Arizona as a guest vendor, right? And he was there to kind of just discuss his methodology and his philosophy with all the people that showed up to that pet event. I think it was being held by the Humane Association in Sedona. And I also decided to buy a vendor booth in that event as well. And I saw Vladi, and I knew who Vladi was. I pretty much Google stalked him before he even showed up. And then when I saw him there, I just had to go introduce himself. I kind of sat in my booth saying, okay, he's a trainer, I'm a trainer, you know. And back then, you know, not so much now, which is amazing, but back when Vladi can validate this, but when him and I were earlier in the dog training industry, trainers were not very friendly with one another as they are now. Trainers really guarded their secrets, guarded their methodologies. I used to go to all kinds of trainers when I was younger to say, oh, I want to be a trainer. Can you show me how to be a trainer? You know, back then I thought you had to go to college and university to be a trainer, right? I didn't know really the intricacies behind it. And yeah, so I basically didn't approach Vladi right there at that event only because I was a little intimidated because obviously he was older and was already a trainer, and I've already had bad experiences talking to trainers.
Okay.
You know? So when I would go to trainers, I say, oh, I want to learn, and they would always say, I don't train my competition.
Oh my God, that's
or a lot of times trainers would say, oh, you know what? Yes, I'll teach you, but they really just took advantage of me. Like I had to go run to, you know, back then people didn't have printers ready available, so I had to run to a place called kind of like a Walgreens. They called it Thrifties back then, and I was there paying 25 cents to make all these copies for that trainer that was supposed to mentor me, so I can help pass out all their homework to everybody else. And I was just kind of like a grunt. He'd say, here, hold this dog, here, hold that dog, and I'd hold different dogs. And not one of them would share their secrets with me unless I was their, you know, their guy for like a year. Like there was just no trust there. So I really had to kind of break out on my own and learn on my own back then. So I was really intimidated when I saw Vladi at that event. So I stood there forever just waiting for him to come introduce himself to me. Like I thought that was going to happen.
Did it happen?
You know? But he probably felt the same thing. He's like, all right, there's another trainer over there, and trainers don't normally get along, so I'll stay in my section and he'll stay in his section. But I just couldn't contain myself anymore because he was also doing a speech in front of a whole bunch of people. So I saw everybody lining up, going to hear his lecture. And I'm like, I just can't sit here behind my booth. I have to go out there and at least sit in the chair and show that I'm interested in learning more, because I wanted to learn a lot from Vladi as well. So when I got there, I was just a young kid sitting in the chair just watching him, and I think he already knew that I had a vending thing there. And so afterwards, I just really wanted to ask him questions. I said, hey, I just have a bunch of questions to ask you. So I kind of told him where I was at in my training, what kind of things I was doing, and I was just really excited talking to him. As a matter of fact, Vladi, when Vladi speaks, people listen, right? And I always say, because Vladi talks a lot. That was probably the first time I've ever realized that Vladi wasn't a talker, because I was talking over him. Oh my gosh, I know who you are. Blah, blah. How do you do this? How do you do that? This is what I do. Is this what you do? You know, I just needed tons of validation.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty much strictly just a correctional trainer. So Vladi was already kind of more of a balanced approach back then. Me, I didn't believe in using any treats at all. So I was just mainly kind of more of just a traditional type of a trainer. I did a little protection training backgrounds and stuff back then. And then he was very kind to me, and we ended up striking a friendship. And then I just realized I got tired of Arizona and I wanted to move to California. And then Vladi saw my marketing going, oh, you're advertising in California, Orange County. And I go, yeah. And he goes, why? I'm like, because I'm moving there. And he goes, me too. So we both realized we're moving to the same state, the same county. And we were just very friendly competitors at that point. And we tried to do a couple of ventures together. I think we had some ideas trying to work up something for Orange County, but they just kind of fell through. And eventually I ended up moving to North Carolina during COVID. And then as we never grew apart as friends, but we weren't really intertwined anymore once I left Orange County, but we always kind of kept in touch.
Oh, that's nice. And I really thank him for opening this possibility for us to meet, because without him, there wouldn't be this friendship, I guess, or it will take some other paths for us to join. But I was, after we had an interview, I got a very kind message, a nice message from you that, you know, spiked a little more interest in your work. So I watched a lot of your videos that you're putting online, and I'm pretty eager about to understand, like, how did you navigate it from the correctional trainer that you were into such a field of, as you call it, autonomous canine. I can't even pronounce this brand of you. How you say?
Autonomous.
Autonomous. Yeah, I know what it means, but it just kind of my tongue doesn't go. Autonomous canines. Yeah. So how now from I want to be my way, I correct whatever you do. I mean, when you talk to the dogs, how the heck this shift happen from you must into do whatever you want?
That is a very good question. So here's what I will say is, I've been training for 30 years now. So I'm quite evolved from that young kid that Lottie met.
Are you still training?
I don't train anymore, and I don't mean that I don't have clients and I don't work with dogs anymore. I'm actually just so far removed from what I used to do. It's just not considered training. So when people ask me, "Oh, do you train dogs?" I have to say yes, because that's how I get my business. I have to market, "Oh yeah, I'm a dog trainer. You need your dog trained, come to me." But once people meet me, they realize, wait, you're going to help me without training my dog. I'm like, yeah, your dog does not need training whatsoever. It's completely opposite of what he needs. As a matter of fact, training can hurt this issue more, you know? But yeah, I've been working 30 years. I'm 50 years old. When I met Vladi, like I said, I was in my early 20s.
Oh.
And I was mainly correctional-based training for probably a good 5 or 6 years of my beginning stages of training. And then I decided to study a lot on Karen Pryor's method, so I went purely clicker training. I'm always an extremist in either direction. When I go somewhere, I go full force.
Okay.
So when I was a traditional trainer, I wanted to do just traditional training. All the other training methods are wrong. They're all evil. They don't know what they're talking about, right? I'm getting results, and I like the results I'm getting, and I'm not hurting the dog, and I have a great relationship. So very extremist that way. And then when I started going to clicker training, I was like, oh, I don't know, clicker training's onto something. And there's some hole in my game. I'm having some difficulty that I can't figure out how to resolve, you know, and without being really rough with the dog. So then I thought, I'm just going to go purely that way. I won't say that I was a clicker trainer, only because Karen Pryor, when she was first starting out, she really was introducing clicker training. But it wasn't trademarked back then. It wasn't something that she was doing at a Karen Pryor Academy. She wasn't certifying people. But now that she's certifying people, I can't really say I did clicker training because she has a certification for that. So let's just say I did a lot of marker type training, you know, positive reinforcement, you know, trying to use just purely shaping and luring. I did that for probably a good 5 or 6 years as well. And then I realized, you know what, when you're having difficulty in something, you always go back to your old stuff. It's just the way it is. Right? You go back to your basics. So when I realized clicker training wasn't working for me, and I'm not going to say not working for me because it does work. I just noticed that there's some shortcomings to it. There's some things that you really have to kind of think about and work around. And then sometimes you create issues. Then you have to figure out how to undo those issues. It's very delicate to do clicker training or strictly traditional. So then I kind of fell back on traditional, and then I became what was known a balanced trainer. But I was a balanced trainer before that was even a term. I didn't consider it a balanced training method. I just considered fusing it, and I was just going to call it my own method, like the Nila method, right? It wasn't until later in the years that people started using balanced, and then I just said, oh, yeah, I guess that's what I do too, then, because I'm kind of both, right? Then I started realizing too, then I was having difficulty with just both of those methods. There was something I was missing, and I just couldn't point my finger at it. Because I think everybody knows that's watching, if you've worked with the dogs or if you have a dog that you're having difficulty with, you tend to can't find the solution either. Like you're going with one method, you're going with one trainer, you're controlling and managing, but you're still having difficulty. And I just found that with all of my clients and people that were calling me is, I've been to this trainer, I'm still having difficulty. And where I started realizing I was having a problem was when people would come to me from former trainers that were using the same methods I was. So I wasn't offering anything different. I was just saying, well, maybe that trainer was doing it wrong. Or maybe that trainer's timing was off, you know? There was a lot of ego in me back then as well. So I wasn't quite evolved into what I'm doing right now. And then I started getting into e-collar training, remote collar training. And I said, wow, wow, I really love this. Oh my gosh, I don't have to yank the dog. I can use just a sensitive stimulation. I can only raise the stimulation if he really needs a hardcore reminder. But other than that, it's a very good relationship. My clients just have to push a button. That's all. Push a button. What do I do if he doesn't go on the bed? Just push the button and he'll go, you know? And that became my thing. And then after a while, I realized, I don't use much of the correctional-based prong collar, slip chains. I don't use much of the clicker training anymore. And I just said, I think I'm just an e-collar trainer now.
Oh, that's how you call yourself?
Uh-huh.
E-collar trainer?
Yeah, I just said I'm just an e-collar trainer. Because I was just going through so many phases, And then I started realizing, you know what? The battery's running out of this thing. I gotta go. We're nowhere where it's at. Oh my gosh, I don't think this is the right level. Oh my gosh, I don't think he feels it. And I started realizing how scared I used to become whenever I wasn't sure the collar was working right. And then I would feel my heart drop when I realized my dog wasn't coming to me with the e-collar. And then I'd be like, why am I so scared? It's because I really don't have control. Oh, it's really based on this relationship with this collar and this remote like a TV,
It's nothing to do with the dog. No. You actually have a relationship with the collar, not with the dog.
Exactly. So I've done a lot of research with a lot of methods, and it's not that I dabbled in each one. I was working in each method for quite some time, like anywhere between 7-8 years. Some methods only 10 years. So I wasn't just dabbling, going, does this work? Does this work? And then I came up with this conclusion that I shouldn't train at all. I actually really professionally worked in each specific system for a good 10 years, and then a blend of all of them towards the tail end.
Until?
What was that? Until? Oh, okay. So until I moved to Northern California. So I moved to Northern California in Shasta County, and I just started realizing at that time I was getting older and I was getting more winded working with really tough dogs, and I was realizing, what's going to happen when I'm old? How am I going to work with these dogs, or how am I going to help my clients that are older? And so I kind of toned down a lot of my methods and just kind of was just more patient with dogs. I had no idea what I was doing at this point. I just realized I was just tired of doing the same old stuff. I knew they weren't going to work, and I was just trying to be patient with dogs. I guess some people might look at it as desensitization, right? I did more of that kind of stuff and just was patient until the dog was okay with something. And sometimes that would take 4 hours in one session, but I would do it. I'd be patient enough, and I'd find that it would work, and the clients were happy with it. So I ended up, but I still needed more work because I wasn't getting enough work up in that city where I was at. So I had to get some sort of a part-time job, and I worked for a veterinarian office. When I worked for a veterinarian office, I was going for an interview, and they hired me as a behaviorist, okay, which I'm a dog trainer. But behaviors and dog trainers, these are two terms that they throw around all the time that really don't ultimately have any meaning. Other than, are you working with behavior or are you working with training? But when I went to go work there, I wasn't understanding the difference between what I do and what a veterinarian behaviorist does. Because a veterinarian behaviorist, what they work on is how medication alters behavior, or how can it help behavior. So I went to go apply for that job, not realizing that I'm not a veterinarian behaviorist. But I did get the job. Oh. So he liked me, and he realized that he liked my methodology, my philosophy, how I was talking. And then I realized later, oh shoot, I'm not actually a behaviorist. I'm not a veterinarian behaviorist anyway. So then he just said, no, that's fine. He says, I want somebody that does what you do. So I said, oh, okay. So I worked at this vet office for the longest time, and I even had my own little area where I could do consultations and things. And I got a lot of calls, but one particular dog steered me completely at 180. And that was when somebody had to come over and they had to spay a wolf dog. And I never really ultimately worked with wolf dogs before. I felt that they were all hybrid wolves, which I learned later that there's a difference between a wolf dog and a hybrid wolf. But it was just a very majestic looking animal that they needed to spay. And so when I was in that process, the dog was very difficult to handle. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to just take this dog with me by myself. We're going to go in the back of the operation room so I can do my desensitization kind of thing and just work on acclimating to the operating room so he'd be more comfortable next time he comes, because it wasn't his day for his appointment. They just wanted him to get used to the office. And I tell you, Sasha, I just felt silly. And all of the coworkers that were looking at me going, oh, anybody can do it, Tony can do it. And I'm like, holy crap, I have a wolf in my hand. Oh my God, what am I gonna do in my head? And then I just realized, I don't think I know what I'm doing here. I don't think of all of my experience, I don't think I'm ready to handle this. I don't know what to do. So I just sat there. I just didn't do anything. And it took a while, but the wolf dog totally got relaxed, went to sleep, gave it back to the owner, and I said, okay, bring him back tomorrow. I hope he does okay, which in my head, I'm thinking, you know what, this wolf dog's gonna spaz out again. That's not gonna fix him. Basically, he just got tired, I think. And then everybody in the office patted me on the back. Oh, we know you could do it. We know you could do it. And there's a little that dog in your ego that goes in there going, yeah, that's right. I did do that, didn't I? But in my head, I'm like, I didn't know what I did. I'm glad it worked out, but I was really just winging it on that at that point. And that wolf dog came back the next day, totally calm, chill, enjoyed the spay, loved me, came over to me, got comfort in me, and we just had this really awesome bond. And I just realized, wow, I'm not sure really what I did. But I videoed that. As a matter of fact, if anybody goes to my YouTube channel, they can watch that video of me actually doing that. I look a lot younger. And my YouTube is youtube.com/Tony Nila. Or Tony Nila, I think is what it is. And yeah, I posted that video, and somebody had approached me that was doing some sort of a website, kind of like a referral for people looking for trainers. And when I went to the website basically was about how there's a lot of trainers that grow on trees. There's a lot of certifications that don't really have true meaning behind them. And the people, the civilians don't know that. They think that there's these qualifications you need to have to really work with dogs. And they handpick trainers that they watch, and then they post those trainers on their website, and those trainers have to prove themselves before they'll be allowed on that website. And some of the requirements of doing that is quite strenuous, which I don't think any trainer would want to do, to have to prove themselves to another organization. And you have to have original thoughts. I mean, you have to do something original. It's almost like your PhD. You have to have an original thought, have a peer-reviewed paper, right? Yeah. And so it was very similar. They wanted those same kind of credentials. And so the person that was running that was handpicking those trainers to promote on that website, saw that video that I did, and he said, hey, I've never seen a trainer do what you did. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, let's be honest, you didn't do anything. And I was like, yeah, I know I didn't do much. I couldn't argue with him because he's an applied animal behaviors with a PhD in comparative psychology. He's like, that kid's not doing anything. But the video's getting a lot of views, right? And he says, but I've never seen a trainer do that approach. Just try doing nothing. So I want you in that website. And I went, really? Oh my gosh. It was a really big honor to be on that. Well, later on, he ended up leaving that website. He was just a behaviorist that was helping that group handpick trainers. I happened to meet him that way. But he left that website, and later on he approached me, and he wanted me to help with this program that he was doing, some sort of a center. And again, I was still quite young, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? He needs my help. He knows I'm a good trainer. So I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to tell him what we should do with the program, and I'm going to tell him how to do this, and I'm going to tell him how to do that. And I was really slapped across the head on that one when I got there, because when he came to me, he said, listen, he said, I'm going to train a whole bunch of trainers in this understanding that the dog training industry is not doing. He says, the dog industry has a really bad weakness, and I see that weakness, and nobody's going to do what I'm going to teach you. Nobody. So there will only be a handful of you out there that will know this, and I'm going to coach you in it. And I'm like, what is it? And he goes, have you ever heard of latent learning? And I said, latent learning? Never heard of latent learning before. What is it? And he goes, have you ever seen a hobo dog where the dog just knows how to cross the street, doesn't get hit by traffic, ignores other dogs, ignores people to meet with his owner across the street, and the dog's fine? Or that one guy that goes to the liquor store to go buy himself some booze and he leaves his dog outside and his dog waits patiently for his owner? And then if you go to those people and you ask them, how did you train your dog? Their response is, I never trained this dog. He's just always been that as a puppy. What? How does that even exist? That some dogs are just naturally born knowing how to be good without any training? It makes no sense to me. And he goes, yeah, he says, that's what I'm talking about. He says, but the truth is there's a scientific explanation for that. But most common people don't know that. So they just call it an old soul. He said, the other thing that's a shame is they don't know how to recreate it because they don't know how they started it to begin with. So he said, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And I was like, all right, I'd love to do that. And it was the most hardest thing to understand because I was training for so long, I couldn't get out of the mind of being a dog trainer. And everything he tried to teach me, I tried to explain rationally through operant conditioning, associative learning, classical conditioning. And I was one of his worst students, I'll tell you, Sasha, one of his worst students. He just couldn't get me out of that dog training mindset.
How old was, how long you were in the, I just didn't catch the year, how long you were in a training business before this happened?
So I was like probably 41 or 42.
Okay.
That's how old I was. Yeah.
And how long you were already a trainer? For how long?
Oh gosh, I was a trainer for 20 years at that point, I think. 20 to 23 years probably.
And then how now someone that's in correctional training, court training, every possible training expert is actually mind shifting? Was it possible? Did it actually happen still? Or you are still puzzled with what you would do? Or now it's actually all, are you like all free will of the dog is? Can you get me? Because what we know the most is that leaving the strong behavior and to loyalty of ours to what we created in the past is the most difficult thing to do. And you, as you said, like I was the worst student of his. How many of you were there? How many of colleagues you had?
Just a handful. Like maybe I think he was trying to shoot for 10. There's only probably 5 of us.
Are you in touch with the people from that class?
I don't even know who they were.
Oh,
right, because he was coaching us individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now tell me now, how that come? How do you know you was like worse at his class? Like how the coaching went?
Because even after all of that, him and I are still friends, and he told me that I was just the biggest pain in his ass.
Yeah, usually.
But he also says I'm one of his best because I've done all of the wrong things, so I have a better understanding of why he would tell me to do things a certain way, and why the argument didn't make sense to begin with, and all of the problems that I caused. He said gives you a better understanding and scope than the other students that were just so cooperative with anything he said. Because those students that just go along with that program and learn it don't know anything different. So when they get thrown curveballs, or when their client changes something that causes the dog to not do well in the program, they're not easily catched as I can catch them. I know exactly why. For example, Sasha, when you're done with the program, like when most of the clients are in this program, when they're done with it, they can tell if a dog's been trained or not just by looking at it. And they can also tell whether a dog's been e-collar trained because it just doesn't look natural. I know you know what I'm talking about, that you can see. I can tell you, Sasha, I have one of those dogs that I'm talking about that I never trained. And he's like a hobo dog, and he knows how to walk with me across the street. And you can see that dog, and you would tell me, Tony, you're lying. I can tell he's been trained.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you can. Because what I can tell, and I'm just sorry just to jump in this little bit, because I think it's very important part. All tools that are used, tools, when I say tools, I mean everything that's not, blackmailing the dogs with a treat, like conditioning reinforcement with a positive reinforcement as much as you can go. And then the question becomes like, how do we reinforce something on the dogs that actually tend to, their behavior tends to gravitate toward a certain point, because that's the way of their reacting on the environment they're placed in, right? And now I don't like how he reacts on the environment, and rather than changing the environment, I try to adapt the dog's behavior to this fakeness of the, to get a fake reaction of the dog. But that's, you can see that the dogs that are conditioned with the positive reinforcements have a different type of the behavior than the dog that are frozen in time with all tools that are used. That's what, because when the dogs are exposed to any level of the pain or uncertain feelings or something that they can recognize, they fear that environment. And then you have like how the body reacts, like physical reaction to the fear. It's a three things: run away, freeze until this thing doesn't end up, or bite or attack. So when I say like all the tools that we use in order to condition dogs are actually leaving dog in freezing mode, and you can really see how those zombie dogs are actually behaving. That, I think that's the
They're easy to spot. They're easy to spot for sure.
Zombie, yeah.
So let me do this for the people that are watching, because we're gonna get super technical, I can tell, and I really want to explain better what it is that I do and then what it is that we're even talking about. Because you and me, I'm sure we can go deep down the rabbit hole, but people won't be able to keep up with the conversation.
Tell me just what was the background of your teacher? Like, how did he find out of this stuff? Everything that he was teaching you. That little thing.
He basically went to a university in Canada. So he's an applied animal behaviorist. He has a PhD in comparative psychology, and he's done a lot of wolf and African wild dog research. And he's worked as a consultant for zoos, but he doesn't work in the industry anymore because he's much older than I am. He's now basically just retired, but he sees what's happening around himself and he just cringes and he can't stand what people are doing to animals, and there's nothing he can do. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why he did what he did as far as just reaching out. The other thing also too is he told me that the applied animal behaviors today are not the same as when he was in it. So they also get brainwashed by the internet. He says when he was doing this, there was no internet. So they had just base facts. But now that they have the internet, he said a lot of applied animal behaviors, even with PhDs, they get pulled a bad direction as well because of just how accessible poor and wrong information is. But one of the first things that I do want to tell everybody, because this will be important so people can understand what it is that we do, or what I do anyway, is latent learning is a term from a scientist by the name of Edward Tolman, right? So really quickly, when Edward Tolman came out, B.F. Skinner had just proved his point on operant conditioning. He just won the Nobel Prize for it. And then right after he won the Nobel Prize on a peer-reviewed paper, Edward Tolman came right after and debunked everything with his peer-reviewed paper. So it was completely opposite. And so what he did was, B.F. Skinner basically said, hey, when every living species learns, they learn on a trial and error basis, cause and effect. There's either a reward or there's a punishment, and then they change their behavior based on that reward and punishment. And so Edward Tolman said, no, that's not true. How do you know what a dog's thinking? And B.F. Skinner says, well, it's a product of their environment. If it's negative or it's positive, they shape their behavior. And he goes, no, because they make decisions in other ways too. That's not, you can't just rely on that. So how did he prove it? He got 3 mazes, and one of the mazes, he had a purely positive reinforcement group in there, which were the rats. He put a treat at the end, so they would all just try to accomplish the maze as best as they could to get that treat and that reward. And he did this experiment for 70 days. Obviously, they're doing great. The second box, he didn't put any reward. He just let them walk around the maze aimlessly. Third box, it was the same scenario as the second box, just rats walking around not knowing where to go. By the 11th day, obviously that first group, the positive reinforcement group, did amazing. They were starting to get really good at that maze on the 11th day. Of course, the other 2 boxes, those rats are just walking around aimlessly. There is no food for them, so they don't care. So if you were to tell somebody, well, which rat did the best? Positive reinforcement, that one works. You totally see it there. But Edward Tolman did something really different. He said, I'm going to see, okay, how long it takes for the second group to catch up. So he says, all right, I'm just going to put the food there as a motivator to see if they'll learn it too. And that same day, they just mastered it. The first group is still learning it. Oh. And he said, wait, they haven't been practicing. I just put the food there. How are they mastering it? These rats have been practicing it for 11 days already, and they're just still trying to figure it out, but they're getting better. And then he termed that latent learning. What happened was those rats in that second box, they weren't being manipulated. They were just walking aimlessly around the maze. And when you're in a mansion, you want to open closets and see what's there. You want to open and go, oh, there's 2 bathrooms here. Oh my gosh, look at the tub. You explore and you understand your surroundings. And then when you find out that somebody says there's a $100 bill in all the master rooms, I know where those are at, and you just go straight to them. So they were building a cognitive map of the maze, and of course, when they knew there was food at the end, they knew how to get there already. So the thing is, well then, okay, how do we get these rats that are now positive reinforcement related to learn the actual maze? Because they actually didn't learn the maze, did they? They were motivated by something. So let's get them to learn the maze. So he removed that food, and what do you think happened with those rats? They kept going for the exit where the food used to be, so they were having a difficult time creating a cognitive awareness. They couldn't go into latent learning like the second rats. Now, let me tell you what I've figured out. That's where it clicked for me, that when I'm working with people's dogs, they're actually still puppies and they're unaware of it. Because when you take a puppy and rather than raise it cognitively and latently, you decide to control it and manage it with food and treats and food and treats and rewards and punishment, and you condition them to sit and down and come and heel. What ends up happening is you put them in a conditioned state like those rats in that lab, and then you can't keep up with it, because the thing about conditioning is it has to always be reinforced. That's why dog trainers always say, well, you can never stop practicing. Now that you've started, you got to go for the rest of this dog's life. Because if you don't reinforce, if you're not consistent, the dog's going to regress. Okay? So if you've been raising a puppy that way, and now they're 3 years old, and you don't keep up on the training, and they regress, what mind do you think they're going to have when they're not being controlled and managed? They're still 2 months old, except for they're big, and you start to see a lot of aberrant behaviors that you wouldn't want to see in a big dog. And those become those behavioral issues. So it's not just about latent learning, but it's also I'm trying to rescue dog owners, not dogs, from training their puppies too early when they should be raising their puppies and giving them experiences that teach them how to function around the world around them. And that's what latent learning is about.
So that we are not talking about training, we are talking about raising.
Raising.
Yeah. And now, just like how those experiments and how those latent learning conclusions out of those 2 experiments are actually applied through your job today?
Well, I would say that today I honestly am free from tools, free from food, free from stress, all of my clients as well. Actually enjoying their dogs and not controlling their dogs, and not worrying about what their dog's going to do when they go to the other room, or worry how their dog's going to respond if the guy knocks the door while they're in the bathroom. It's just a feeling of relaxation to not have to train dogs. And I'm able to help more people because what I do has nothing to do with training. So the consulting I do is worldwide. It's just overall much better than training. It's just, and so what I do differently now, I guess, in more of an accurate statement, is I give them choices. I just control the environment. So I control and manage the environment just like a school teacher controls the environment for learning. I make sure that my environment is set up perfect for them to learn in. That's the first thing. A safe environment that they can learn in. And then what I do is exercises as I set up individual choices for them to make choices throughout the day. They're going to make a wrong choice or they're going to make a good choice. But the point is when they make that choice, even if it's wrong in my eyes, they're in a safe environment to learn. Nothing bad's going to happen to them. I just just have to teach them that that decision was okay because they thought of it. But whatever decision they think they made, you have to live with that decision. So you're stuck in that decision. Like, let me give you an example.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Give me an example.
Let me give you an example. I have my dog in the backyard. Okay. So I feed my dog every day at 6 p.m., let's say. So every day at 6 p.m., he comes over and he comes to eat when I call him in from the backyard. And this is a scenario that probably every dog trainer can relate to. And then one day he ignored me. And I went, oh no, he ignored me. How is he going to eat? What happens if he doesn't eat? Let me call him one more time. Let me come back in 20 minutes. Then the human starts to stress and worry, right? What I would do in that case is I would just say, okay, he doesn't want to come in. That's fine. If he doesn't want to come in, that's up to him. That's his decision. Whether I think he understands or not, it's an experience for him. It's a wonderful learning experience because he's safe in the yard. And in the future, if I call him and he doesn't come to me, that's going to be a bad scenario. I'd rather have him learn it here than learn it on the beach. So I just say, fine. And I close the door and I just don't worry about that. He didn't want to eat and that's okay. And I don't worry about trying to force feed him. I don't worry about trying to convince him to come in. I don't worry about putting ketchup on it. I don't worry about zapping him with a collar because he didn't listen to me, because that would create resentment and lack of trust. I just trusted his decision. He didn't want to eat. Okay. And then I put that bowl away. And I had things that I had to do with my wife, and we had promises that we had to make because it was our anniversary, so we had to do that. At that moment, I saw that he wanted to come in all of a sudden. And I thought, I love him to death, but he knows we eat every day at 6 p.m. He knows that. And I know he's not dumb. I know he's a smart dog. But I'm going to let him in so he can eat. But unfortunately for him, I'm busy right now. I had plans, which is the whole reason why I planned 6 p.m. He never did that again, though, Sasha. So that's an example, right? He never did that. So anytime they call and an owner calls their dog, the dog starts coming 100%. Because the dog realizes, I don't know if there's a cookie. I don't know if there's this punishment. I don't know what your plans are. But I don't want to miss out on my opportunity to either be with you, go to the park with you, or eat. I don't know what your plans are, but I trust that whatever you call me for is for a good reason.
Yeah. So, and then you are calling it like a cognitive behavior therapy, right? That is how you are framing the work you do, right? Cognitive behavior therapy.
I don't know what to call it. Unfortunately, it's just so different. There's very few people that do it. I like the way you teach and how you instruct your students as well. And I see some similarities in those as well. And I don't know what you call yourself, but there isn't really anything right now in our industry of which to call us. The only reason why I call it canine behavior therapy is because my mother-in-law is a marriage and family therapist, right? And she does, she has her clients go to constellations and cognitive behavior therapy for addiction and so forth. And it just dawned on me that what I'm doing is more of a form of therapy because it's not training, has nothing to do with training, but there's a lot of marriage and family therapy between the dog and the owner. The dog doesn't quite understand the owners and why the owner's panicking, why they're trying to force feed me for nothing, so it confuses them. And then the owner can't understand that dog. And the answer is not control and management, make the dog do what you want. The answer is just to understand that this is all just a learning process for him, and it's okay for him to learn. Your job is to make sure that if he makes a decision, let him sit in that decision and know that he's safe, so you don't have to stress about it.
So that's that's kind of, when we talked after that message we exchanged and everything, I was really intrigued, and I dived a little bit deeper in everything I was able to learn about you, and you are just revealing one after the other. So you're great. You're a great guy to interview. I don't need to ask nothing. You just keep going and revealing wonderful secrets.
I don't mean to overtalk.
No. I wouldn't cut you off, but I'll find a way to navigate. So you're perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. Perfect guest. What I find, very much similarity in our work, because I also try to focus on people behavior as an environment that shapes a dog, our behavior shapes dog environment, because that is what we create. That the way we set up our house, the way, the tone in the house, everything that we live in, anxiety in the house, everything, the way we live is shaping the environment in which dog on which dog respond, right?
Yeah.
So tell me now, I'm just eager to dive in a little more deeper question. I don't know, am I typing into a trade secrets? But if you don't want to know, you don't need to tell.
I don't have trade secrets.
So for example,
it's lonely doing this. So I need people to steal my secrets so that way they can do it too. And at least I have a family.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, because I think like a lot of people would love to learn about that. But let's come to the point. If the dogs are coming to, and then we have a wrongdoings of the dog, kind of something that we wanna work on, like aggression or whatever. But let's focus on this extreme way of the dogs reacting on the environment.
Sure.
Like, and are you actually in working with the dog are you focusing on a symptom at all, or you are going around trying to build this self-confidence of the dog, that he's very welcome in the environment the way he is, after he behaves the certain way? And then because the thing you said and you typed in is a very crucial instinct of the dog, comes from the point of need to belong for the survival. And the worst thing you can punish the dog is actually to exclude them from the group. No punishment can be, no force or no blackmail can go over that. When you,
it's like telling your kid that they can't go to Disneyland because he didn't get good grades, but you're going to go with the family anyway, and you'll bring him back something.
Yeah. There you go. So I think, like, are you focusing on the symptoms when you do your consultations, or actually the symptoms disappearing is a process of the dogs finding their place within the system?
So that is an awesome question, Sasha. That was my hardest lesson to understand with my mentor. And that was why he said I was a pain in the butt, because I just couldn't get it for the longest time because it didn't make sense to me. But I'll explain it the way he taught it to me, which is the way I explain it to other clients. When you have, like, let's imagine you have a chain and there's maybe 10 links on that chain, okay? And one of those links is red, it's rusted, it looks ugly. That's a behavioral issue, right? So your concept is, I need to get rid of that ugly link right there. So if I could just cut it, if I could maybe sand it, maybe I could just spray paint it back to silver. You're putting so much focus on what you're trying to get rid of and not realizing that that's not actually the problem. The problem is that what we call a twin behavior. It's a related behavior to your primary behavior, and it's being supported, and you don't realize it's being supported. If you just get rid of that twin behavior, the primary red ugly link will just fall off on its own without you even having to address it. So he told me, if you have an aggressive dog and you know what that twin behavior is, when you solve that twin behavior, by the time you get to the aggression, they're going to tell you he's not aggressive anymore. He just changed. I had one client a long time ago that I lost because I didn't fully explain to her why we have to finish the program, and she left early. So when I was doing that program with her, she had an aggressive dog. And as we started getting closer to the stage of where we work on that, she canceled on me. And she goes, you know what, Tony? I'm sorry, but I'm going to go ahead and stop the training. And I said, oh, why? We haven't gotten to the certain stage yet. And she goes, he hasn't been aggressive for like 5 months. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, oh, okay, all right, that's perfect. The program's working properly. Yeah. And she went, what? That's not because of you. And I was like, no, you don't understand. It was because it's a twin behavior. That's why I started doing this first before we get to your aggression. And then she goes, oh, you can't take credit for that. Okay. She just didn't get it. But that was okay. I'm really happy that her dog is awesome. But so that is basically how it works when you're working with behavioral issues. But it still has its flaws. It's not foolproof. So it's not the golden ticket, so to speak.
What?
That you could fix a really bad behavior like that through latent learning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can do it, but There's a lot of factors. So
Okay.
the factors are is the human mainly.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what I find very, very, very interesting is actually that this work that I do actually basically doesn't care about the symptoms, because all the symptoms comes from the having that unsecure attachment towards the owners,
Mm-hmm.
because the owner's behavior to the dog is unpredictable, and we don't know, will we have food tomorrow, and do we need to, who is protecting this little group of ours? Do I need to step in and hunt out there? Do I need to protect everyone from you? Do I need to attack the others because there is none? And then all of that kind of like all of those symptoms that might arise from the same root cause of insecure attachment, if you just work on how to develop a secure attachment where the dog doesn't care about when they're gonna eat, they know they're gonna eat.
Right.
They don't care about what they're gonna eat, they know they're gonna eat the best food possible that this environment can provide, and they are leaving all of these burden aside slowly, one piece by piece. And on the end, what you get in a perfectly behaved dog, because the circumstances changed. And I hear you talk that as well, is what we are looking for is people, owners, doggy moms, doggy parents, present in the moment when the decision of the behavior, of my own behavior, is made.
You
Present
can't,
in the moment.
what you just explained was perfect, and you can't build that by tricking them or by forcing them.
No, it needs to be a will.
Well, look, you can do that, but just understand that if you do that, what you're going to get is a dog that you always have to control and manage, sit down, hum, heel. You're not going to have that autonomous dog, which is self-sufficient. You don't have to tell him to not get anything off the counter. You know he's not. You see some child running, he knows to go behind you on his own. He knows how to create distance for himself. A lot of latent dogs are not even on the leash because they just know how to function around you in your presence where you're at. You don't have to worry about, oh shoot, how's he gonna react? If he's uncomfortable, he'll let you know by just leaving, and then you'll be like, oh, he's uncomfortable, I'm gonna let him do his own thing. He knows he's not comfortable. No, stay here on a leash. Oh. That is not a very good thing to do.
Do you have any kind of like a here and there, like back, how you say, like flashes to, how can I say, were you able to integrate all of your knowledge into this, or you just jump like a quantum, or it was a quantum leap?
My previous knowledge, basically, gosh, how do I say this? Because it really speaks poorly, I guess, of myself a little bit. But my previous knowledge, my 20 years of coming into this and then now switching to this, that 20 years was a problem for me. I spent 20 years on just something I regret wasting 20 years on. It's very heartbreaking that I wasted all those 20 years when I just studied dog training so hardcore, paid so much money to get certificates, only to find out that my end result was I realized that you need to stop dog training to have a good dog.
Yeah, true.
So that 20 years to me was super shameful and a waste of time. I could have spent that time enjoying my dogs.
But do you think actually you would be able to how this leap and this new work sound when you are talking to your old colleagues? Are you able to have a discussion? Are you able to kind of have a constructive discussion with your old friends, with your old colleagues, like the trainers, or you don't mind about that anymore?
So remember, I've been doing this for a long time, for 30
You must
years.
have a lot of friends in the industry.
But all of them are older, and a lot of the people that I met as dog trainers stopped training dogs a long time ago. They just got burnt out. Like I said, I'm 50 years old. I've been training for 30 years. Trainers that are my age that are training, they've really been training for maybe 10 years. They're just getting into it themselves. I started pretty young, and so all of my older friends were older dog trainers, and they've passed or they just disappeared and no longer in the industry. And the last thing they want to do is talk about dog training.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
So I think it really also, and they think I'm insane that I'm still doing this.
But you're not doing it.
Well, they think it's insane that I'm still in the industry, that I'm still helping people's dogs. Yeah, they after a while, it's interesting because for the new dog trainers, they're not going to understand this until you've been training dogs for like 40 years. You're not going to be that same go-lucky dog trainer. You're going to be a little disgruntled just about dogs in general, and it's a really, really bad space to go into because you start hating the industry, you start hating the people. So that's kind of what happens to older dog trainers. They get super burnt out. They start to hold grudges about just, they always get pain in the butt dogs. They always get pain in the butt clients. Yeah. That's what happens.
And there you go.
And, and they don't even know what it's like to have a good dog anymore. So it really takes a toll on their body and their spirit. The newer dog trainers, I do talk to some, and I start sharing this knowledge with them, and they're a lot more open, except for the really hardcore, maybe protection trainers. They are generally more resistant to what I'm talking about. But regular dog trainers that just work with clients that have dog obedience problems or behavioral issues, but they're not in professional sports, those dog trainers are usually pretty open when they talk to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now you have the Wolf dogs yourself at the moment?
Oh, the Wolf. Okay.
Or you don't?
Well, no, I have. Okay, so I own 5 Wolf dogs.
Oh.
Yeah, so that is a super controversial breed to own, right?
Okay, and that's like how can you explain like how do you get a wolf dog? What do you need to breed?
Yeah, the truth is you can get a wolf dog anywhere. They're not. There's counties and there's states where they're illegal. There's no real. They're illegal. They're illegal. It's just like pit bulls, right? But a lot of those laws are that way because they don't understand that a wolf dog is not a wolf hybrid. Because a wolf hybrid is a wild dog with a domesticated dog. These wolf dogs, even though they're high content and they look like wolves, those wolf dogs are bred domestically for generations from wolf dog to wolf dog breeding from when it used to be legal to have a wolf. Like it's generationally. But it's still controversial. So they get illegal in certain states. And so what ended up happening was, remember the mentor I was talking to you earlier about? Well, since what I learned has nothing to do with training, you still have to prove yourself, which means that you have to raise a latent dog. You have to have a dog that's latent. Otherwise, you're just taught. Right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And so he held the students accountable to that as well as myself. And so I told him that I didn't want to get a puppy or I didn't want to get another dog. And he says, no, you got to do this. And then I thought to myself, you know what? He first saw me when I was working with a wolf dog at that vet office. So I said, so I'm just going to tell him I want to get a wolf dog puppy, which I've never owned in my life. And he said, no, absolutely not. So he wouldn't let me get a wolf dog because he said the genetics of a good breed is really important for this program. And he said, it's not that you can't work with them later on and use this program. He says, but I need you to go through the program smoothly so you can understand the reason why. I can't let you take on something that's difficult too soon. You need to know first how to function this way. Then let's talk about these hard cases. Okay. And I went opposite. So I ended up getting a wolf dog anyway.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask. How do you end up having it all?
Yeah, I got a wolf dog puppy anyway. And this is going to be a crazy story, Sasha. So when I got that wolf dog puppy, the breeders that were breeding them, they asked me, have you ever owned a wolf dog before? And I said, no. And they said, okay, well, you first have to own a low content wolf dog, then a mid content, and then maybe if we like you and you look like you're taking good care of your dogs, we'll let you do a high content wolf dog. And I was like, oh man, okay. And he says, but here's the thing, you have to have an enclosure. Do you have an enclosure? And I said, do I have an enclosure? I said, well, what's that? And he says, it's going to be an 8 by 10, 6 foot gating, 2 foot lean-ins, dig guards. It's like prison, they can't get out because it's a wolf dog. And I went, oh no. And I said, well, you know what? I said, here's the deal. I'm actually a behaviorist. And I said, and I want a wolf dog because I'm doing it for my personal research with my mentor, right? I'll put in a good word for you because you want to work with a behaviorist. And I might teach you a lot of things about canine behavior. And she said, I don't don't care who you are. Do you have an enclosure or not? You're not getting a high content wolf dog.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
did you make the
all right,
enclosure?
I'll go somewhere else. So I was bouncing around, and that's how all of them are. That's the mentality. So then I started talking to one other not trainer, wolf dog breeder, and he said, well, let me ask you this. He said, okay, I respect your behaviors. Totally understand that. I would love to learn if you have anything to teach. I just want to ask you one thing. Have you ever owned a wolf dog? And I said, no. He says, then you don't know. When you own a wolf dog, you're going to tell me I was right, and you know nothing. And I was like, all right, then, fine. So I built an enclosure.
Oh, you did build an enclosure. Okay.
So I got this high content wolf dog, Sasha, and he was a nightmare. A nightmare. Wouldn't come to me. I started going back to my old stuff.
Oh.
That was starting to ruin my relationship. And then I started realizing I need to do research on these wolf dogs because there's got to be a way to work with them. And then I just learned the real hard way. You know what? I'm going to go back to my latent work, the latent learning instead of my old stuff. And then that wasn't working. And then I was letting them out. I was trying to have them be with me in the house. That wasn't working. And I said, my gosh, maybe there's something to this wolf dog stuff. And then my mentor was there to help me once again, even though we had an argument about it. And he said, Tony, I told you we finished the program and you were going to know how to do stuff. But you're stuck in a situation, and I have to leave you in that situation in order for you to grow, because that's how latent learning works. And I went, what? No. you wrote the program protocol. He says, you put yourself in this situation. It's really bad. And your responsibility is you have to help all these wolf dog people from that mistake. So I started helping the wolf dog community absolutely free as I was doing my own research with them to see how to figure out how to get them to behave better latently. And I'm really well known in that community, that wolf dog community. I've been doing that for about 8 years, just purely working with wolf dog people. And then later on, I realized that I had to leave the community because I figured out what the puzzle piece was to make all of these wolf dogs behave. As a matter of fact, mine are doing wonderful now. And the piece of the puzzle was that stupid enclosure.
Oh, the enclosure.
You don't ever, it didn't dawn on me, but just think of it this way. When somebody says, my dog doesn't need exercise because he has a backyard, that's not the key. They're going to go insane in that backyard, right? Because you keep them there. They're isolated. You don't go hiking with them. You don't go walking with them. You don't do stuff with them. And they're going to go crazy too. And it was just such a simple solution that my mentor just had to let me go through and just realize how stupid
the enclosure
was. Get rid of the enclosure and you'll have your wolf dogs that are just latent. And so again, that's the human mind that feels that it has to control something, which is completely opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. And that was a really hardcore lesson for me to learn.
Now you was touching the based on the way I'm talking about my program is a harmonic bonding. How do you build the harmony with your dog? And then you have layers of the orders of harmony. What I lately found, because I was, as you know, I was very much involved in the family constellation therapy, becoming a therapist myself. I saw the pattern in how the dogs take responsibility, representation for the certain things in order to provide a survival to the system they come into. But interaction in between the dogs, in between human and dogs, if based on the human relationship system rules, doesn't bring a good results. And then I was, you just said it perfectly, and I just want to say just a little one sentence on that. That as we have rules and orders of love, I created rules and orders of harmony. And in order for us to develop a harmony with our dogs using the system, whichever, like I think like we are so much alike in what we do to the dog, to the owners and environment in which dog lives, no matter of which breed and race and whatever you want to call them. The orders of harmony goes like this. First is a respect. Respect of the different species with its own rules, with its own hierarchy of the system of the needs that the humans as a top of the pyramid at the moment, the world we know, must respect. And actually the must respects come, we have a responsibility to respect the differences. So we need to respect the different species for what they are. And we need to take a responsibility to act accordingly to that respect. And all of that blends into the third premise of the orders of harmony, which is dignity. I need to provide this animal with a dignified life and the place for the and the environment for the dignified death at the moment when it comes. Providing these three things creates a perfect place for the harmony to be established in between us and anything that's not a human-like creature of this planet, right? And you was wonderfully open this little, stage for me to lay up the harmonic bonding and the orders of harmony in which we can create a wonderful environment. And respect of the animal comes from understanding the needs of animal without humanization, without putting human traits on them, applying. We can still call them furry babies and be their doggy moms and parents, but if I want my baby to grow into independent, wonderful creature, I need to observe in order to see what my baby really wants from me, where to move around to provide an inspired behavior as an outcome of our relationship. And in that sense, I think we both grow. We both grow. I grow as an owner or as a parent, and my baby grows as an independent, can you spell it again? Autonomous?
Autonomous.
Autonomous.
Yeah, autonomous.
No, I just can't pronounce autonomous.
Yeah.
I didn't have time for practice that word, and I keep trying. I'm sorry. So autonomous creature that have a choice. And our relationship based on trust and mutual respect is a choice. So he's not forced, blackmailed, or punished to love me. He chooses that by force and by will. And then one last question I would love to ask you, and I would go with you forever. Yeah,
you and me, man, we're vibing right now.
I like it so much. Thank you.
Yep.
The last question I want to ask you is this genetic inheritance. Because in my work, I found actually that breed itself is a talent that might be used and doesn't need to be used. If the environment is right to talent to express themselves, they're gonna express themselves. But if the environment is not right for the talents we own to express, we won't express themselves. And stigmatizing the breeds because they are breeds, call this banning of the wolf dog and banning of the pit bulls and banning of the breeds of the dogs just because they happen to be owned by the people that doesn't understand how to act with those animals right way. So what do you think actually is a place there? Is a place there for calling that the dogs would behave? The instincts are coming out from their breed, inherent characteristics, or the breeds will the breed characteristic and traits will always be overwritten by the environment those traits need to be adapted to.
So with those kind of cases, the way I understand them to me is that the dog has experienced trauma, right? And it becomes a very scary, kind of almost abusive relationship because it creates trauma with the human as well. So they both start sharing this trauma. And what ends up happening is it becomes like an abusive relationship. Like, I'll give you an example. A woman had spoken to me on a consultation and she said, Tony, I said, tell me your story. She says, I have a great dog. He's really good. He doesn't pull. He's great with kids. He's an amazing dog. He sleeps with me in bed. The only thing is, if he sees another dog, he'll turn around and he'll bite me. And I've needed stitches from that. But other than that, he's a great dog.
Other than that.
And I was like, wow. I was like, okay. I'm like, but let's be truthful here. You don't trust him. You're changing things in the house. And she's like, oh yeah, because I can't trust him. So we're building all of this distrust and we're not dealing with this trauma. And I said, but you're also talking like you're in an abusive relationship. Just replace that word with my husband. My husband takes the kids to school. He earns a job. He's doing amazing. He cuddles with me in bed. He just sometimes hits me. But other than that, he's great.
He's great.
No, that's not, your dog is your family. It's not supposed to be doing that, right? So they're having trauma. And so rebuilding that relationship, that trust helps them with that trauma. I don't believe it's genetic. But here's what I will tell you, which is probably, I don't know if you would agree or not. It'd be amazing to hear your opinion on it. But I do believe that that DNA does carry like a recording of memories of experiences, right? That should be how people just evolve, right? So I feel that if that dog has trauma and you breed that dog, that trauma can carry over to the puppies, right? But it still has to be repaired the same way, which is basically you need to help it break that cycle, whether it's emotional trauma or I like to say ancestral trauma, that you have to change its opinion or its perception of how the world works.
But also it can be done by environment the dog is raised in.
Oh yeah, I mean like having couches pushed up to your window that oversees the yard and cars and everything creates territorial aggression. So, you know, and again, that's one of those things that it doesn't take a lot to fix. Basically, if your dog has territorial aggression, as an example, stop putting your couch right next to the window. For one,
there you go.
Right?
And again, like in order for traits and DNA to be expressed, the environment is needed.
Yeah, I believe
that. Because you know, it doesn't matter like which kind of genes we have projected within and which kind of trait. And also, you're right, because there is an entire field of genetic that you know, deals with the epigenetic. It kind of doesn't carry any other informations rather than emotions.
Yeah.
Right? And those emotions are usually that are carried forward are the traumas, because that means that once we find ourselves again in a similar situation, this is what we do. In order to prevent that from happening, this is what we are carrying forward. But they wouldn't express themselves if the environment wouldn't be inviting those traits. Right? Makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I do agree with what you said, because we came again back to the point. The epigenetic as well is a potential to happen, but will it happen depend on the environment we create. And if we create the positive attachment, like secure attachment that happens in between vibrations of our brain and our puppy brain or our dog brain, that the dog can trust whatever we do, it's in the interest of the group, and we communicate that clearly, why would they worry? Why would they become aggressive? Why would they pull on a leash? Why would they do all the things they are doing that force around 4 million people to abandon their dog a year, because the problems they were not able to solve with the traditional methods and the training.
Here's an interesting thing that I think that would be good for anybody that watches this video to understand a little bit about that as well is, remember how you said earlier about respecting your breed? I mean, you're kind of respecting your dog, respecting who they are, right? It goes a bit deeper than that too. So just imagine this. I had a woman, and I like to share this story because it's just a good example of, remember how you said when we're talking about not working on the primary behavior, but a supporting behavior? So this woman, her pit bull attacked her neighbor's cat, but they actually get along with the cat, to be honest. They're really good with the cat. What ended up happening was they hired a pet sitter, a dog walker lady, and she didn't know the pit bulls knew the cat. And so when they got excited to go pull towards her cat, she started screaming and flailing, tripped, let go, and for whatever reason, they hurt that cat pretty badly. So she had to go to court for that. But once again, when they called me to kind of help, the dog was still getting along with the cat. Like, he never did that again. So they just wanted my help. And when I went in there, one of the things that I noticed was there's a cardboard box with a hospital emblem on it and just torn up toys in there, right? And so my mentor used to tell me to look for twin behaviors in houses. So I have a habit of, like, Sherlock Holmes. I'm looking for twin behaviors anywhere I can find here, right? Any links that I know are probably contributing to why they're calling me to begin with. And so I see this box and I say, hey, that box over there, what is that? And she goes, oh, that's the hospital. I said, the hospital? Why is it called the hospital? She goes, oh, because my pit bull, he just destroys his toys. He loves squeaky toys.
Oh.
right? And I just can't find one strong enough for him. So my mom said, this is getting expensive. Put all of them in this box, and then she'll take them home. And she has a sewing machine, so she buys new stuffing and new squeakers on Amazon. She repairs them, brings them back. They came back from the hospital, and I started laughing. I said, "Oh my gosh, that's such a cool thing to do and think about, because toys are so expensive."
Hospital,
But I said, "We have a problem." And she goes, "Well, what's the problem?" I said, "That's why your pit bull was reacting that way with the cat." And she goes, "What do you mean? He's fine with the cat. It's just the squeakers, and he's not aggressive with them." I said, "No, no, no. You don't understand. It's a pit bull terrier. Terriers, they like that. They were used on the UK to hunt rats, right? So what sound does it make when they're squeaking? It just excites him, right?" So she didn't understand that relation there. But once she stopped that and just started respecting the fact that, okay, this is exciting, because there's a genetic DNA memory there,
Yeah,
right?
that's perfect. And I think
Yeah.
like that's very important thing that
But here's the interesting thing.
And then how did you fix the problem? Like you told them get rid of the hospital?
Well, I'll get rid of the hospital for one, but the other thing also of that is that there is a instinct, a much more stronger DNA genetic code that will override that prey drive. And it's how they became domesticated to begin with. As they stopped chasing things and they started being with us to just understand we're the ones providing the food, right?
Yeah.
Or try to get that genetic code to think opposite of what that is. So your bond, remember how you said that they just want to be with you?
Mm-hmm.
That they just want to be with you. They just want to be a part of your life. For you to say you can't come or you need to be in the backyard, that is hard on them. Okay. For those people that say, no, my dog would love it, he loves the backyard, that's true. But you're not waiting long enough. Wait long enough to see, hey, I want to come back in. And that's what I'm talking about. That's because at the end of all that chaos he had in his head, the end result is, I want to be with you.
Yeah.
And if they can't
And that's
be with you, it gets really upsetting. So in that instance, we had to work on that perception because her dog didn't have that perception of her. Right. So
that's amazing. And I think that's the way to go. And I think like we are on the edge of, very big shift, and we need to keep doing things that to inspire others to embark the journey, because I was there. I can't say I was ashamed too, because I was a show dog handler with all of show dog traits, right?
yeah.
But and secrets and everything. But then now I'm very big advocate about like, okay, this is what we really do to the dogs. And this is, if we want to have show for the beauty, we should consider, competing in one ourselves, not taking dogs to do so.
Yeah.
We have much bigger pleasure and love and growth hidden in that relationship than the ribbons of any kind.
So what are some examples of, remember how you were talking about the relationship, how you build a relationship with your dog and you have these set rules. Like what are some of the details of those rules with you? Like with how you help the client's dogs grow a stronger bond with them?
So we just actually, what I try to do with them is I try to awaken those traits, as you say, override all the behavior issues that we have back with the instinctual survival ones. The food, the pack, like the group, like reuniting, the way we go out from the home and the way we come back, the way we treat, the way we feed our dogs, the way we take them to the walk, and the way we play with them.
Okay.
So all 4 of these traits, if we interact with the dogs, it will bring out all the hidden dynamic of the primordial instinct that will override every single behavior. And that's why in my classes, what I try to teach people is how to communicate these 4 traits through the ritual. So I call it ritual because everything needs to be precisely communicated. The way you stay, your eye contact, your calmness, the way you perform, where you and that to create the environment in which the dog does exactly what you talk about. Willingly choose us as a leader because we are the most trusted provider and protector in the group that they are placed at. And that dog want to be by your side wherever you go, whenever you invite them to come with you, either with you or without you.
Yeah.
So I don't take some time to for example to solve the leash pulling. We don't focus on the leash pulling at all. We stop going to walks. We start implementing the rituals, because all what the dog wants from us is to interact in their cage. So where the interaction, the best interaction with the dog happens is within the cave. There we build a bond, not on the highways, not on the street, not in the supermarkets, not everywhere where the dogs would just be distracted, and we don't they can be forced to behave either there, but we won't be able to develop the bond. So, and once you have that secure attachment, because that's interesting. I was maybe lately in my research came towards a very, very interesting phenomena in the nature called neoteny. I don't know, do you know about that? Yeah. It's very important to understand that the dogs are wolf today, but they're not wolf, they're wolf puppies. No matter how old they are, they remain wolf puppies. And the wolf puppies need their parents for survival. So the parents, what actually happened in that evolution chain, it's not the wolf puppies were actually kind of like traded their wolf parents for the human parents. And that's where the entanglements, emotional entanglements might happen with the humans, because the humans are the parents of the dogs, but the dogs are not babies of the people.
So what's really cool and interesting about that is kind of how in latent learning, what we teach is that the wolf, because I've worked with wolves, and wolf dogs.
The wolf?
Yeah, high content, not a wild one, but I've worked with high content from a puppy up, right? From a puppy up until it got older. And that evolution that you're talking about, the neoteny, I feel that when we do latent learning, we're so focused more on that genetic code that it's just strong, and that's that bond still that I'm telling you about. So it's I just I'm starting to like ramble on, so I don't really know what I'm going to say anymore. But I feel that even any canid, like not even through just evolution, that's the strongest. That bond goes so genetically. If you go into research with canines and canids, they're pack animals. That is the strongest evolutionary bond they have, and so it trumps prey drive.
Yeah, it does.
It trumps a lot of stuff. So if you could focus on that bond, you're like you said, you don't have a pulling issue.
Yeah, you don't have any issue
because they don't want to leave you. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. They're not going anywhere.
They just want to be by your side.
So you could use that bond. You can use that bond. But I'm telling you, it's such a strong genetic code. I feel even you could do it with a coyote. And people have.
Because that's why I think that's why the canine species were able to develop, especially the wolves were able to develop such a strong bond with the humans, because deep within our system, the humans are also a pack-orientated animal. Yeah. Kind of like a human animals, because the strongest family is, the stronger pieces of the family are every single individual. And if we want to see how the family looks like when it's strong and compact, with the parents not in charge, but parents leading the different generation of the offspring, right? Their kids, and not leading by force or blackmail, by example and strict rules that just need to be appreciated. The moment you don't want to live by these rules, you're free to go. And then the son or the daughter just decide to move on and leave the little nest, and then the life happens. But for the dog,
dogs will do that.
Sorry?
Yeah, I think that obviously as a teenager in a human way, if your kid gets 18, he's going to move out, he's going to go away, right? Yeah. Dogs are not like that. Dogs want to be with you forever.
That's why I think that neoteny has a significant role in it, because all the puppy traits, no matter for how long the dogs are, they always need a humans, because they're lacking parents. And that's why they were able to blend, and we feel them as a family because they are our family. They're missing their wolf, the wolf parents. They're missing. They traded wolf alphas and wolf parents for humans. And now here we are with all of these different breeds that look differently, and the Chihuahua and the wolf dogs and everything else that you think has different instincts based on the breed. That's nothing to do, as you said, the primordial instinct is the survival of the group. And that, because if the group is strong and safe, every member of the group is strong and safe. And the only way to ensure the safety of the group is to clearly communicate.
Yeah, you reworded it that beautifully. That's perfect. That's exactly what I agree with. What I'm trying to say.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Tony. It was a wonderful. You gave me a couple of times the goosebumps. I really enjoyed this, and I hope like everyone that's gonna watch the recordings and this that we're gonna post across the social media would enjoy as well. And I was really passionately happy that out there are more people thinking out from
There's
the wall.
very few of you and me. I'm just telling you. So basically, you said that I don't know the 5 that were being trained the way that I was learning. But I found you thanks to Vladdy.
There you go. Thank you, Vladdy, for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vladdy,
because
for this
you and me, there's very few people that do what we do.
There you go.
This is still something that the trainers are. I think owners are now getting better and understanding that training is not. They know something's wrong too. I know you're training unless you get addicted to training yourself and you just love training. I can get that. You got conditioned as well in that case. But for people that just want a good dog, just a good dog, I think they anyway. I'm sorry, just frames.
No. Because I think you're right. Because this type in our evolution need to find another way of living next to every other non-human animals on this planet, dogs included.
Yeah, the owners are catching up to it, but trainers are starting to as well. I'm noticing that when I'm talking to younger trainers, not ones that have been in the industry for, but when I'm talking to younger trainers, they're already been doing balanced training from the get-go, and they know there's something off, and they know that they don't need to do all that stuff. And so they're starting to also think that there's something wrong, but they don't know how to find that information. And unfortunately, they have a mixed idea where they still mix it with their old stuff. You know, kind of like how I was evolving, they're doing the same thing. But if we can get this message out more and people will start to follow us, those younger trainers will start calling us and saying, what do you mean you could do this without any equipment? How?
How? Yeah.
And that's when you and me are going to be like, thank you. We've been waiting for you trainers to come here so we can show you this is possible. Because then they're going to say, well, can you show us proof first? Yes, because I'm going to show you to do it with your dog.
Yeah, wonderful. And there is, thank you. And there is wonderful idea that you can do that you can do on you know, the dog barked, so I said them thank you because that's what we do when the dog barks, and my thought slipped off. So I was just coming back to one that I would love actually to end this conversation of us with that wonderful sentence of your working in that vet clinic with your wolf dog at that time, that you achieved so much by doing nothing. Is actually, that was so full of love, wisdom, and support of that animal, that I think that's what we all need to do. Less we do, more we understand, more we observe and learn from their behavior, better and harmonious relationship we're gonna end up building with our dogs first. And then we're gonna learn to love our differences with the fellow humans, no matter how hard we disagree. We would find a way to their heart.
Well, you and me don't disagree on anything. I can tell that right now.
So, yeah, there you go. I can tell too, but I mean, like the world and all of this chaos that we all live in, just because we want to prove we are right and the others are wrong, and this is good, the other thing is bad. More we learn from dogs, more will we be able to create a more harmonious world we all live in by doing almost nothing. Just
it's so much easier than dog training. I don't know why nobody's doing it. If you just raise them right, and it has nothing to do with control management or treats or tools. It's just it's just so hard for people to believe. The people that are fed up are usually seeking the information. They're like, all right, let's try this, and then they're really surprised with the results. But some people just don't know. It doesn't sound it sounds too good to be true.
That's okay.
Right?
That's okay. Because yeah, we want to do something so we feel right and we feel good and we feel big. We can do something other people can't, and that's also a part of the journey. Because don't forget that it took you like 20 years to come to this point. So give 25 years to the others, and once they're gonna hit the road, they're gonna join the club. Okay.
Yeah. I want them to hurry up before I become too old, or I don't even want to talk about it anymore.
Yes, and so it's our responsibility to try to find the marketing campaigns, the lexicons, the ways to market this message, because it's all for the love of dogs.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility now that we find these little secrets or whatever wisdom we were able to decode, because we did it on completely two different sides of the world, with the two completely different backgrounds, searching.
Yeah, because you didn't start off as a dog trainer at all. You didn't start off as a dog trainer at all.
I didn't start, because when I was talking to the Vlad on the interview, we said, you don't have an experience as a dog trainer. Like, what makes you dog trainer? It's kind of, I had the questions asked me, like, ask him like which kind of credential he has to be a dog trainer. I had none. My only, when I said like my own interest to learning about how to behave and how to help dogs behave perfectly by us was in my grooming school. And I was telling you that story very shortly when we met. It was like over phone. I said, like, I was 16 years old. I had a beautiful Newfoundland dog on a grooming table, and he was on a safety loop, because that's industry standard. You put the dogs on a safety loop, and the dog was perfectly quiet. Nothing was wrong with him. He was wonderfully behaved, but he was heavy and the big for the table he was put on. And as he was standing on the edges, and he slipped with one little feet, and he was hanging himself. He just pulled himself, the weight of the body pulled himself off the table, and the table was steady and big. And now when I remember myself, when I'm telling you the story, I can still hear 35 years later, I'm hearing the crack of his neck.
Oh, man.
Table. And that was so traumatic experience for me that I said, like, I will keep, because I loved grooming dogs, and that was my life for a long time. But what made me trainer is, I said, like, I'll never do this to a dog that will not willingly stay on a table by his will, not by force, not by being blackmailed, nothing. I want dogs to enjoy being on a table, sleeping on the table. I don't need to use any safety loop, because I want to make them be safe, not on the loop. I want them to be safe by my side.
Right.
And unknowingly, I was starting to unpack the journey you went on, and we finally came to a same conclusion through ending up working with the dogs from two different backgrounds. The meeting point of ours is the well-being of the dogs. Yeah. Give them a chance to choose right, whatever we want, and after that, our relationship is bonded in such a harmonious way that's almost unbreakable by nothing and no one.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of ways to, one, respecting the dog's choice, right? And the way, I don't know how you would approach it, but you can build that bond with the dog doing other obstacles.
Yeah.
And then later on go back to that, and all of a sudden you realize the dog doesn't care that it's up there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's exactly. And also I was using this, like I would love dog to give me, their pets, so I can just cut their nails. And they would do nothing. They were like sleeping there. I would cut their nails. And now I have the courses like, how do you teach your dog to enjoy brush? Because it's not the same if the dog is letting you do the nails or if he really enjoys it. Because on the certain level, the dog during those treatments, what I was only interested in, like having dogs enjoy grooming process, enjoy being brushed and dried. Because when they start enjoying it, they're not enjoying it just because they love it. It changes entire physiology, because the joy to be felt, you need to release endorphins, like oxytocins, like all serotonins, all beautiful hormones that are healing the body no matter what happens to it. If they eat everything, the body is full of cortisol. the cortisol again changes the physiology on the body of the other side. So in order for me to make my living as a highly top paid like a show dog handler, I wanted my dog to love doing things for me, choose to perform the way I wanted them to do, without being forced.
Yeah.
So they did everything, and that's amazing.
And did you use treats? You didn't use treats either, right?
No, I didn't use. I didn't use nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, they were there in the ring because I was, grooming them, preparing them wonderfully. They were in the ring. They were the joy of them being seen to do for me something that other dogs with the food and with the choking and everything were not doing for their handlers, was something that was creating. I was handling one of the top dogs in the world. Like some of them, the careers of those dogs were costing a couple of millions of dollars to maintain over the years.
Do you still have Newfoundlands?
Sorry?
Do you still have Newfoundlands?
Do I still have
that dog? That breed?
No. I always worked that for the clients.
Oh.
I always had a pet dog, something that were like, my dog for a home, but I always lived with a client's dog. And that relationship I had with them always was built on respect. And that's why I was only have one client. I never had I was, booked for the year, but it was only one client, and, we were winning left and right.
Your journey is so awesome that you're that self-aware of everything. Were you ever curious to read about dog training, or did you ever think about even hiring a dog trainer?
Forcing was never, because the old everything that was out there for me was too much force or too much blackmail. So, right? I didn't.
Right off the bat, you already knew I don't want to do that.
No, because I was a veterinarian college dropout because of the industrial farming of animal. So I have a very high moral standard. I was raised that way. My grandma and my mother raised me that way. That if you disagree with something, don't do it for no matter what cost. Try to find a way. But I didn't know how would I say yes to industrial farming of the animals, no matter do I love to eat meat or not. The way the humans treat animal during that farming period, it's inhumane. Yeah. And I just, as a veterinarian student, you needed to agree to that in order to graduate. And I said, I can't poison my mind with this.
Right.
So, and that's why I dropped off. But I didn't stop learning. I was just still going. I was not part of the, I took my, I didn't study veterinary anymore, but I was going to the classes, the teachers I loved, and I learned a lot. And I have also I'm a veterinarian technician, and I have also like a 10, 11 years of the clinical practice of the holistic veterinarian practice to my mentors. And then when I said, okay, I won't have school because I just dropped off. I don't want a part of this. And then I was starting like you. I was selecting my mentors through the world, like choosing them.
Did you even think about using food ever?
What?
Did you ever think about using food ever to do your training?
I'm not.
Did you ever try and decide, this is not work. This is not the answer?
Nope. I must be honest, no, because the food was always a source of reward. As you said, like there is a playtime that if performed properly, it can be combined with a feeding ritual. Right. So it's never a reward for doing things right. It's a ritually communicated good choice that doesn't include food as a bite. It's and then now you can always say like, what and how the relationship between dogs and the humans are actually built on the good practice and trust is this key elements. Like how do you perform the feeding ritual? Yeah, putting down the bowl, picking up the bowl the moment the dog moves out. Even if you need to incorporate somehow the chewing of something before you put the dog, so you put him in the really memory of the ancestral memory of the leader eats first and we get leftovers, what's out there. So when I sometimes have a stubborn dog, I would add a piece of grape or chocolate or the apple before I put him a bowl of his own down to the floor, signaling the ritual. you know, releasing my hormones. So the dog actually thinks that he's eating my leftovers because this is a deer that we just hunted down. And I ate my portion and I gave it to him his portion. And that slowly builds this trust of relationship, secure attachment, and forever good trade. So I was, because as I said again, in order to teach dogs to enjoy grooming process, you just don't have time to think about too much food involving in that, because it's a distraction.
Yeah.
It's a distraction. So it's kind of like putting dogs to the
you don't want them to be distracted while you do something. You want the dog to be self-aware and okay, right? Because as soon as they're distracted by food, they're not getting over the process still.
Yeah,
so they're just distracted. So you need to do the true inner healing for sure.
And you are right. Nothing of this perception. I was actually going through my own inner healing through the family constellation therapy that helped me understand the rules hidden within the dynamic of the human-dog relationship. And that's kind of like after you reveal that that bond, that emotional bond that transcends the reality. I have a dog, right? That's not how it feels. I have something much more important to my life and survival, that I just happen to have a dog instead of that or whom or something like that. And you know it because I know you haven't experienced the family constellation therapy.
Yeah.
And that's something that brings awareness of how actually our emotional state of mind and emotional state of body actually functioning, and where of these emotions are coming. And as we grow, we actually tend to blend all of these emotions more and more and more and more and more into one point, where actually we become emotionless, but fully embedded into emotional state of being. And that's a higher state where you can actually accept everything and everyone for no matter who they are. Nothing brings anger in you. Nothing brings disappointment in you. Everything is okay. Nothing is right or wrong. It's okay. And as you grow through this experience,
it's a learning process. The learning process is super important for a dog.
Yeah, but also the humans need to undergo that process.
Yeah, because what happens a lot with the humans that I talk to when I'm trying to help them is they're also working on themselves because they are fearful, right? Everything they're doing to the dog is because they're scared. They're scared of losing the dog. They're scared. What if the dog makes a mistake? And then that's where people get so into that. And then it's so hard to teach them to let go of that. That's the scary part. So when I'm working with clients, because they've been doing that the whole time, now I'm saying, okay, why don't you just relax? Your dog's not doing anything wrong yet. And they're like, oh, you don't know, so, it's just like they need to get over their own trauma, their own fears, and they need to just understand what the dog's doing and what it needs. And it's really,
I must say this. I'm sorry I cut you off, but I think I just don't want now you to rush through the rabbit hole, so I don't get the chance to point this out, because you had a wonderful perception there. If the dog needs to trust owner and completely surrender, because the owner is now in charge of this group and survival, and all the primordial instincts are awakened, and the dog is really responding perfectly to the owner. That's relationship need to happen in between owner and the trainer or the therapist or whoever, because the owners need completely to surrender to someone and literally sometimes blindly follow the instructions. And for that, in order to, even if they do not understand, they need to follow the guidelines so they will get the results. So, but also that puts us in place of being at the place where the people can trust us. And oftentimes the reason why we become a dog trainers is because we don't trust people. We want to work with the dogs because we were hurt by the people so many times, and not so much. That's the reason why the people actually tends to gravitate towards the pet care business on any level, because they don't want to deal with humans. An average trainer that never was thinking about his experience, his childhood, relationship with the father especially, because that toughness of the today training comes pretty much in the family constellation therapy and the entanglements to the relationship of the father. And if you have such an authoritative figure of the father, or actually missing figure of the father, the tendency of you becoming a strong trainer with the toughness within, it's somehow natural flow of that personality. But that's also the same point. The people, the client, would surrender to that kind of trainer because of their relationship with the dogs or the father as well. But some new environment is actually with this type of the self-work, because you couldn't find this, and I was not able to find this, even mentally or cognitively be able to recognize it, because I was doing it for so long, I didn't know what I was doing, right? Until you do not look back and you see what you did. If you do not step yourself on the healing process of your own emotional baggage, and once you start releasing all of that, this, what we are talking about, is an outcome and only truth that you can see. But telling this to the people that are still entangled in their childhood and still trainers because they want to train the way they were trained, it's not going to happen. The people won't see it. So just, we need to keep doing our thing and encourage people to at least see the other point of the training, and they're going to see a lot of bad doing to a dogs, and that's last thing you want to do to someone you love and care so much for.
I think they already, you know, the thing is I think they already do see it. I just think that we're what we do, I don't know about you, I think people don't, I mean, like, we only just found each other.
It's a
have you found anybody that works like you at all since, I mean, other than meeting me?
Not much, to be honest, not much.
So so people, I think we need to figure out how people have to find us.
Because it is a natural state of evolution. It's a natural way of being. And once you tune yourself in the natural way of being, then you will see this as the only truth exists out there. So it's natural. That is why you don't need to be taught to see this. Someone else might categorize it a little easier, put it in some structure, make some course out of it, or things like that. But the essence of the human-dog relationship based on trust is the foundation of this, and that's the truth on its own. It's embedded in a core of our being and the dog's being. And it's so
hard. You know, it's funny though. It's not funny, but it's so hard though because when I talk to people, it doesn't make sense to them why this bond, this trust thing that we're trying to show people is going to override my dog wanting to chase a squirrel. They don't understand how that's going to work, but the truth is it does.
It does, because there is that great sense of belonging.
Yeah, the bond is much stronger than that drive.
There you
go. You just don't know how to, because people do basic stuff like, well, yeah, I run with my dog, I do the chuck it, you know. So, but they're not understanding that's not actually building a bond.
That's not building a bond. Oftentimes it's kind of, you know, even when you come to this point of seeing how the world can operate next to dogs, you might end up actually labeling those actions we do over dogs like emotional or physical abuse.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I thank you, Tony, so much for your time. Like, we actually chatted here like 2 hours without.
I know. It was a good chat, though. That was pretty good. We deep dive. I hope people were able to keep up with us.
I'm really looking forward for us to see what the future can unfold. And I think like there is a lot of space for us joining forces and spread this message as widest as possible. And I'm eager to see finding a way for us to cooperate on a deeper and wider level.
Well, you know, we definitely have to have this continue. We should really co-host.
Yeah.
I don't know, but this is because we can talk forever. I know
because I think like we touched a lot of bases. Now we have like we were talking generals. Maybe if we would kind of consider coming up with the topics for the certain episode that we, you know, certain topics that we might discuss.
Just give our take on that specific topic. Or
something.
That would be super fun.
Okay, let's see.
All right.
Thank you, Tony, so much.
It was great. Thanks again for having me.
No, it was a very big pleasure for me and the people going to watch this. Thank you so much. And bye, everyone. See you next Thursday.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, everybody.